Hello, welcome back. This is part 3, and I'm going to continue with the reflection cycle. When we start doing the reflection, what is it that we're looking at? So, essentially, I need for you to remember just two things. When we're looking at reflection, we are looking at feedback, we're looking at the way that we teach, we're looking at um, the examination of every part of what we did, every part of the practice. How do we collect the data? How do we collect the data? We ask peers to come into our class. We ask people to sit in, or you can even record your teaching as well, and you can analyze and you can also get feedback from your students as well, and analyze and reflect on what you have achieved. And this is the reason why in reflective teaching it's always encouraged that you have a teaching journal, because the teaching journal would enable the capturing of feelings and at the moment experience, and you can always come back to it and to reassess what you've written. So through the analysis of the data, you will go to evaluating your students' learning. This is where we start to look at their performance and see if there's any congruence with what you see in this data, the data you've looked at, and how do you draw conclusions, based on what you have done in the classroom, and how well students are performing in the class. And after that, we will look at the modification of practice. How do we improve our instructional strategies? How do we make it a bit better? How do we encourage comprehension and analysis? We don't want to just leave students at the lowest level of learning, but we want to constantly find a way to make them go up, like the Bloom's taxonomy. How do we make them go up to the highest level if possible? So be ready to make changes. Be ready, be open to make changes. These are some of the things that I think should be embedded in all of us who are teaching, because we can't be good if we're complacent. We can't be good if we don't do anything about the way that we teach. And it has to be a constant improvement all the time, because we're dealing with human beings, and human beings change. There's no two classes or two cohorts that's the same. Why do we need this then? It looks like it's a ton of work to do, but why should you care? Why should you care as an educator? Why do we need to do this reflection? Who cares if you do it or you don't do it? And if you have engaged in reflection, what actually did you reflect on? So I want you to think about this, because if you get involved in reflective practice, then who's going to look at it? Who's going to value it? Are you going to get extra marks in your SKT? I don't know. So let's look at the definition of reflection, and probably we can answer that question a bit later. So reflection is a cognitive and affective process, because we're looking at the way that we thought about the delivery of a lesson. It's affective because it involves feelings. It requires you to identify what kind of feelings that you had while you were teaching. So this can be triggered by situations that you have with your students, experiences that you have with your students, and because we're dealing with human beings, and we can't negate the affective process that would happen when we teach. When we examine people's responses, how they talk about things, how they articulate what they know or what they don't know, and how they even respond to you. Sometimes the raising of a brow, for instance, an eyebrow, it can be something that you can, can annoy you if it's not at the right time, at the right place. So things like that we capture, and then sometimes it does translate to other things that we would do in the same time space. So how do we use that to become better, to become a better educator? So being mindful of ourselves, either while we're in that experience or after the experience. It's like looking at through a window. It's like looking at how do you focus on what we are presenting to people, how we present our knowledge, how we present our personal beliefs about the knowledge. I'm sure there are some of you who have gone through teaching some courses that you have no feeling whatsoever of. So how do you deal with that? We can't have an affinity for all the things that we teach. However, it is good to acknowledge this. It is good to know this right from the start. Like, how do you feel about this information or the knowledge that you're trying to guide your students with? So relate that to the way that you are creating that experience, the learning experience with you, because there's no two instructors who teach the same. And students appreciate this. And I think some students tend to gravitate towards the ones that they can relate to. They gravitate towards the one that listens to them, the ones that do not judge them right from the very beginning. So these are human traits that we have to be aware of, and we do the same as well. So Paris and Ayers talked about the characteristics of reflective teachers, and one of the things that we also saw was that constant engagement with self-evaluation. How do we constantly measure ourselves? How do we observe what we do based on the way students respond to us, the way that they interact with us, the way that they react to things that we give them in the classroom? How do we put this together and clarify the way that we do things? There are three types of reflection. One is looking at the content itself, meaning that how well was the content presented? How well did we describe the issues within that field, for instance? So that is more of the content. How well did students comprehend based on the examples that we gave, and also the presentation, the way that we presented the information. So how well the content was actually internalized by students. And the second one is on the process. The process is on the strategies, the instructional strategies. What were used in the instruction to help students understand the content? How do we make it into something useful? And the last one is on the premise. Why is the problem a problem in the first place? If we're looking at a specific learning event and we want to analyze why did it went all wrong, like you tried your best to teach content A, for instance, and you spent so much time preparing it, delivering it, and then when you ask for feedback, everything came back negative. The students didn't understand what was going on, and when you try to test their comprehension, they did really badly in the exams. So again, that will be looking at the premise itself. Why is this a problem? Why is this such a huge issue that you did not catch while you were teaching it? So how do you re-look at that content itself? The way that as at the macro level, is this something that is actually suitable for the students? Say that they actually need prerequisites to come into the course, but they didn't do it because of the changes in curriculum structure and stuff like that. So when they come to your class and you're teaching them all these technical skills and knowledge, they're not able to relate it because there's no background information. So that will mean that the addressing of the effectiveness of the course would actually have to be revisited from the curriculum point of view, not just at the lesson structure level. Yeah, so I'm gonna share with you some cartoons here, and it what do you call it, depicts, you know, some of the scenarios that we can see. Yeah, so how do you gauge your learners? Yeah, about how much they have learned from the teaching. I think this is a good one, this cartoon, because it talks about, you know, how we learn from mistakes, so therefore can we make as many mistakes as possible. Yeah, we always say that, yeah, it's okay to make mistakes, but then again, you know, it flusters us when the students do not do well in the exams, you know, because we are expecting only correct answers and not the mistakes. Yeah, this is in the teacher's lounge. The kids don't understand. I have to repeat myself. I'm always repeating myself, you know, always saying the same thing more than once. I think we tend to get into the cycle as well, yeah, when we're teaching, and then sometimes we feel like, oh my god, I've repeated this so many times and it's still not understanding. And okay, this is the last slide I'm going to show you for this video, which is characteristics of effective educators. We are expected to be intellectually curious. Yeah, intellectually curious. We are expected to actively reflect on what we do and how we do things. We are expected to have experience-based theories of change, meaning that constantly we are constructing ways to do things better. Yeah, so it's experience based, meaning that we use what we have done before and the things that we learn from other people, and to use that to form our own theories of change and to be able to test it, yeah, in practice. And we are very lucky, I think, because we're in a profession where we can try this out with, you know, different cohorts of students and different types of students, and maybe it didn't work in the first year, but it will work in the third year, for instance. So it's a continuous process. It's a dynamic process, continuous process, to be able to do this reflection. So I'm going to leave you here now, and I'm going to continue in the next video. Thank you.